Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla, and I'm Dr. Carla, and I'm so glad that you're here with me. Our goal is to talk about mental health related issues and to end the stigma surrounding them. So today, I wanted to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. I wanted to talk about EMDR. And I will have to say that most people don't even know what EMDR is. It actually stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is a whole bunch of big words about a whole bunch of stuff. And I have to say that when I first heard about it, I was in school and the professors were like, you don't need to know about that. Just put that aside. That's not something that you'll ever be able to do. So, of course, at the time I had plenty of other stuff to worry about, so I didn't think twice about it. But, it's kind of like telling you not to pay attention to the elephant in the room. So then, of course, all you can see is the elephant. All you want to think about is the elephant. So after I graduated, I joined a group private practice, and several of the people who worked there were using EMDR with their clients. And so the cool thing about EMDR is that it works really well with people who have PTSD, some sort of trauma, perhaps extreme anxiety. And at the time when I started, I was meeting with each new client and I was doing that kind of initial intake where I learned their history and the different things that they were going on and what they were hoping to do in therapy. And then after that, we would assign them to a therapist that would best meet their needs. And so I kept getting a lot of people calling for EMDR, and I kept thinking to myself, okay, what is this thing, right? And so one afternoon, one of the therapists who did EMDR started talking about it, and I remember thinking, okay, that's kind of weird. So you have the person tap on their shoulders or follow your fingers with, uh, you know, with their eyes, and then by doing this, all the bad things in their life go away and it's easy. I'm like, it sounds a little woo woo to me, a little bit like voodoo or something. And so I just kind of kept my thoughts to myself. And yet the calls kept coming in, and I noticed that this therapist had a waiting list of people who wanted EMDR. And then I also noticed that many of her clients were moving through their trauma much faster than anybody else's. So I thought, open your mind, Carla. It's okay to learn new things, right? Even things that don't make a lot of sense. So I asked her, all right, help me figure this out. And that's when she explained to me how EMDR worked. So I will give you the version that I have adopted because I feel like it works the best. We have some sort of trauma. Maybe we're in a massive car accident, right? Or maybe we're raped, or maybe we were abused. All awful, horrible things. Unfortunately, when those traumatic things happen, we store them. We store that energy, we store those memories, we store everything about them, the feelings, the thoughts, everything gets stored in our body and our mind, and it becomes stuck more times than not. Now, some people can sit down and talk about their trauma, and when all is said and done, they're feeling much better. They can realize that that's in the past, this is the present, and they're safe. That doesn't always work. So, what ends up happening is that they hear a loud noise, or they realize they have to go on a long trip, or perhaps they have to go to a family party where their abuser shows up. All of these things trigger a response within their body to make them feel like whatever the trauma was is still happening. And it's happening right now, right here. And it becomes insanely difficult to even manage, right? You want to get into that fight or flight or even freeze and just, okay, if I sit here, maybe they won't notice I'm here. Maybe I'll be okay, right? And that's a really hard way to live. And so what happens is during EMDR, we take that traumatic experience and we pull it out of our stored memory and we move it into our working memory, something that we're going to use right here, right now. Okay, so here's a crazy thing about our working memory. It can only do one cognitive thing at a time. So I pull up this traumatic memory into my working memory. That's the only thing that I can do. Now, if I tax it or somehow bombard it with something else that's going to fight for the right to be in my working memory, then this memory starts to lose some of its fizz, starts to lose some of its power. Okay? And eventually, if we work it enough, what's going to happen is that it's just going to be a terrible truth about our past. All right? So let me kind of swing back here. I'm in a bad car accident, right? And maybe this was weeks or months ago, and now I'm ready to go back to work, but the thought of getting in the car, oh no, I am not getting in this car, right? It scares the hell out of me, right? So if I'm doing EMDR around this, I'm pulling up the memory of the car accident into my working memory, right? I'm adding some bilateral stimulation, right? This back and forth on each side. Okay, and it could be through tapping, it could be through a lot of different things. I like tapping because people can do it themselves. So I'm bringing up this car accident and I'm tapping. And this time when I see it in my mind's eye, I have control. I get to decide how this happens. So, right, I can't erase the fact that the car accident happened, but I might be able to put some extra buffers around me in that car so that when it does crash, that I have that extra padding, that extra stuff to make sure that I'm okay, right? Or maybe I see the whole thing through by tapping just as it did, just as I remember it, right? And then I remind myself, but I'm okay now. Things are all right, okay? So there's two parts of EMDR. One is desensitizing, meaning helping take the sting out, like this idea that I'm okay, right? The other is reprocessing. That's like writing a different ending to it. So if I'm adding the buffers around me so that I've got that extra padding to ensure that I'm okay, right? That would be reprocessing. So when we do EMDR, it tends to work a little faster. I'm not saying it's super fast, and I will never give you a timeline. Oh, in 4 easy visits, we'll have it fixed, because that's not how it works. I wish it was, because boy, that'd just be really easy. I'd have this great marketing plan out there, and bing, bang, boom, everybody's traumas would be fixed. But that's not how this works. But what I do know is that it's hard work. It takes a lot out of the people who are doing the processing, and it requires people to be kind and compassionate to themselves afterwards, so that they can make sure that they get the rest that they need, right? So they get the care that they need, the nutrition, the water, all that stuff. But I know that when your mind continues to process and process and process it, that emotional charge keeps going down and down and down and down, till pretty soon you're like, that really sucked. And I'm so glad it's done and I don't have to relive that again. But that's in the past. That's not present day. That's not happening right here, right at this moment. EMDR is far more complex than that. There's a lot of little tricks and things that we weave in and out in order to help people process their traumas. But I wanted to give you a basic sense of what you could expect if you're looking to do EMDR, or maybe even if you're trying to decide if EMDR is something that you would, be interested in trying. So I hope you learned something this week. Until next time, remember you can change your thoughts, discover your potential, and transform your life by focusing in on your overall well-being. Until next time, continue working on the best you possible.